Hi, I'm Corey.
Oh, and this is Woody.
Yep, that's how we start. This
That's
is
the
the
start
ICO.
of it.
And this is the ISOcast.
Have you had a drink?
I am having a drink. I'm having a beer. And
I'm having a little gin and tonic.
nice. I'm having one of those kind of runs on sort of a Canadian staple. I got a 6-pack of Molson Dry.
Oh,
I
that's
feel like
real nice.
I know. I feel like I just went back to 1993 or something. It's pretty awesome. It's delicious. It's a good lager.
You know what's happening to me is this 6-month pandemic or whatever we're in feels like 6 years, but it's probably been 6 months.
It's 7.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
Okay. I've gone through the beer rotation.
Okay.
I know when we first started doing the show, we were all excited. We were drinking too much, and then we stopped, and then we started
we're all
again.
alcoholics. I know, it was great.
And now I've gone through my rotation of the beers I usually buy. You know, the Moosehead, the Sleeman, the MGD,
Right.
and they don't excite me anymore. And I just it's not, the novelty is worn off of the pandemic drinking, and
So
I
what
don't really
titillates your
need to buy
palate
anymore
these days?
Yeah, I'm on a gin and tonic little run now.
Okay.
A little vodka soda.
So you're now on gin. You're like a ginner.
Ginner. Gin and tonic. Yeah, I'm trying it out, and then I'll switch again. I've done some vodka sodas. I finished off a bottle of mezcal I had in the back of my bar from a trip to Mexico a couple of years ago. So
Wow.
the beer doesn't. I think I've run out of beer. The need for beer. I'll come back around again, but it just doesn't excite me right now.
Yep, I feel it. I get it. I'm trying to drink less, but I'm not. So whatever. It's just kind of where I'm at these days. Speaking of shoving things into orifices, you recently had that happen to you.
I sure did. Did earlier today.
Today. Are
I'm
you
still?
Hold on. Are you under the impression that you may or may not have been exposed to the novel coronavirus?
I'm not under that impression.
Oh.
I did go and get my first COVID-19 swab today, so another first on the show.
None of this is funny. I don't know why we're laughing about this. This is not funny.
I don't know. I thought it's just how it's talked about, orifices
Sure.
and shoving up and all of these things.
Okay, that's my fault.
No, it's not though, because I have so
hold
my
on.
partner-
So there's no other way that I understand to effectively be tested in Ontario, or for the most part Canada, right? Then still that very obtrusive right, tickle your brain up your nose, right?
So there's no way to describe it, and as far as I know, no, it's the only way. I've heard people talk, or on the news, they're talking about a new and less intrusive test that they're coming out with, but I don't think it's out yet. So now this is it. This is the only game in town.
What's that all about? I need to know how that goes. Can you?
So you haven't experienced this?
No, like I live in a green zone. In Quebec, we have colors. We'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
yeah, I've not yet needed to have this done.
Do you have the app, the Canadian
Yes,
the app?
I have the
I do
app.
too.
Yep. Okay. So
For anyone who's not in Canada, they have no idea what we're talking about. But
who isn't in Canada anyway? Honestly, but I think everyone kind of gets the idea. Like most countries, with the exception of a handful, I think do have some sort of a tracing app, whether it's effective or adopted or used. I don't know, but I think people of different countries of origin are aware
of tracking
tracking.
apps. Yeah. So I didn't get a notification on the app. It didn't say I had to go get tested. I didn't go because I have any symptoms. I just went because there's a family member who is in long-term care, and we like to go visit.
Oh.
And to go visit, obviously, you have to have a negative result within a 2-week span. So I haven't been to visit yet, and so I'm planning to go visit. So I decided, hey, I got to go get tested. So
that's straight up courteous of you and responsible. That's the right thing to do.
I mean,
how long do you anticipate is the wait for your result?
They say 1 to 3 days.
Okay. So 3
So
to 5.
so maybe 3. Yeah, I mean my partner is a nurse and they fast track their results. She always gets it within 12 hours.
Oh,
Um,
did you go to the same place that she goes to?
so we went together this morning,
That's
and
nice.
I should have brought a book. It was about a 2-hour wait.
Here it's 3 to 4.
Okay.
I've heard. Yeah.
Okay.
You could bring 2 books.
So, I mean, it's hard to complain about that because it's a good thing to go and get done. And it's longer now because there's lots of kids in line and parents are bringing their kids in to get tested, and it's all positive, good stuff. But you got to wait, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, unpleasant. Not
Like it's
so standing for 2 hours there in line, and it started to talk to my girlfriend and ask, because she's done it I think 5 times now. Just being a medical professional, just being careful and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So she gave me some advice and she gave me some descriptors.
Wait, there's advice like here's what to expect.
Basically.
I like this.
And then as she was reading these off, and I wrote them down, I'm going to read them here in a second. This is it's a different little segment I've prepared here. So I want you to tell me if you think this applies to the COVID test, to Intercourse, or to a little bit of column A or a little bit of column B.
This calls for some theme music.
So the first one is when you think it's over, it's not over.
I'm going to go COVID on that one.
That's COVID.
Okay.
That is COVID. Okay. Number 2 is don't sneeze.
That's Intercourse.
I think it can be. This is both. I would say this is both.
How do you? I didn't know. Can you resist a sneeze? Like I know those people who sneeze very in a very restricted fashion. You know those folks? They're like,
I do. But then it comes out bigger later, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if it festers, but
there's that trick where you touch that whatever is between your nose and your lip, like that area of your mouth. If you put pressure on that.
Is that what they're doing in the movies? Like when they're being daint? They're like, I'm going to. Is that a sneeze resistor?
So yeah, if you apply pressure with your finger backwards, so your nail basically pressing your lip there as you're about to sneeze, in my experience, like 9 times out of 10, I won't sneeze.
I thought that this was like the universal signal for I'm about to sneeze, everyone. Be prepared.
No, trying to smuggle it.
So they encourage you during the swab to resist the urge.
So this is all descriptors from my girlfriend. This is what all she said. This did not come from anyone.
Oh, okay. So this is from
test.
like her experiences. Okay, because I could see like a projectile shooting out of your nose if you sneezed mid, probe.
There was a half a second where I thought maybe I was going to sneeze.
Okay.
And you can't touch your face because you got your mask and everything. And
were you saying to yourself, "Don't sneeze, don't sneeze, don't sneeze"? Because I would have been psyching myself out.
I was worried that I was going to, and that's just not good for anybody. This poor lady who's doing this.
Yeah. Well, she's got a face shield, but I mean, how much can that really block? Okay.
Not when I sneeze, that's for sure.
Carrying on.
So the not so secret to this is all of these describe COVID, but as she was saying this to me, I thought this can apply to many other things as well. Number 3 we'll go with is when you think it can't go in any further, it can.
Well, that's Intercourse.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are all double.
There's
B.
I mean, it goes. There's areas, but I mean, there's only so much nasal passage, right? Before you hit the back of the throat.
That's what I feel like. This is something that's hard to describe. If you experience it, it feels like number 4 on the list, which is having wasabi behind your eyeballs.
Oh, no way! Like it burns. It
is like having wasabi in your brain.
There's got to be a better way than this. This can't be the only way to do it.
The plus side is it only lasts a few seconds, but that's what it felt like. They tell you this before. They say some people think it feels like water. Some people feel like it's wasabi. Some people don't feel anything. Some people, and this is not funny either. But as you're in line and you're waiting and people are coming out, basically like 7 out of 10 children came out like crying and
Yeah.
screaming, and
Of course.
so
This is traumatic.
it's got to be.
But it's got. Yeah. How do you prep a child? Like, there's no Daniel Tiger episode to get a kid ready for this, though there should be.
There's your idea.
Right.
I think is that. Oh yeah, and the last one is again. This is very nice of her because she's just getting me ready because I really had no idea other than Twitter, which is not a good source of information.
No.
Right immediately afterward, you'll feel like you have COVID, but that's normal.
I'm gonna go with the COVID on that one. Okay. So
She was right because I was sneezing a little bit when I went outside. My eyes were watering.
Right.
You got stuff. Your nose is running because they're all up in there. It's not COVID. It's just a reaction of having whatever they have on whatever that substance is on that.
Oh, there's stuff on it.
There must be. I didn't look into it, but there's got to be. That's the spicy part, isn't it?
I thought that it just collected things. I didn't think that injected things as well. Like things went in with it.
I don't think they leave it in.
No,
I think they
okay.
remove it. It's just on the swab itself, and then the swab is removed.
Okay.
So basically, it's like a Q-tip,
right?
A longer Q-tip, and it goes up. And you look at the ceiling, and they put it up there, and they count to 5 Mississippi's, and they take it out. That's intercourse.
I can think of so many other intrusive behaviors that I would gladly endure over this. This does not sound pleasant to me at all.
It's not for me. It wasn't like it was not pleasant, but it wasn't like you're getting a root canal at the dentist or anything. It wasn't like painful. It was just uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, awkward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've been going in for physio and I've been having some very awkward experiences, right? With, different nerve stretchings, etc. Right? That are like, I didn't know that was there and that could hurt for so long the way it is right now, right? Mm-hmm. That's an inside unusual discomfort because, the knee bone's connected to the shin bone, right? Everything is all like interplaying with it. But this notion of a swab going down like up my nose, and then I'm guessing kind of the back of your throat. Is that where they're targeting? Like the back of your, like an upper back, or I don't know.
I don't know.
What's even in there? What's in there?
I didn't know my nostril went that far into my body. That's what I learned today.
Is it true though? It's not true, right? You can't access your brain from your nose. Like you can access it, but there's no like direct, like there's got to be some sort of membrane between the two, right?
If you're actually asking, I have no idea.
Well, I know in the mummification process, this is how they would extrude, the brain. They would go through the nose and they would take out the brain through the nose. So I think
there's a lot more in there than we give it credit for.
There's got to be. I mean, I'm walking around sniffing stuff. You can't be telling me that's hitting my front.
I think we should look this up. I think this is something we're learning a lot today.
Right.
And I learned that I can put wasabi up my nose and it doesn't feel good.
Ugh, of course it wouldn't.
And then you go back outside and it's sunny and it's kind of like, you've been in the bar all night, one of those nights, and you go out and the sun's up and you're just like, oh, and your eyes are a bit fuzzy.
You're kidding. So there's like this long lingering effect afterwards?
I would say like a minute. After a minute, it took me a minute to collect myself, but it was okay. But that minute was a long minute.
Okay. Well, good luck. I know that you've been vigilant, so I don't imagine that you have.
No, I think it's fine.
You're not displaying any symptoms, but like we've had conversations about, going to the beach, right? Let's go down to, Costa Rica or something for a couple of weeks. And you have to get a test within 14 days, I think, of leaving. Right. I don't believe like in some places you have to self-quarantine anymore. Some you do, some you don't. It's everywhere it's different. But the notion of getting that done and then the reward of bodyboarding on the beach at the end of it kind of balanced it out. But are you finding like, okay, this is worth it for the visit? It's like,
yeah,
okay, all right.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's not a big deal. It's 5 seconds of your life plus whatever the wait in line is. And it was probably longer today because today is Sunday and some of the places are closed on the weekends, et cetera, et cetera. So
right.
But yeah, I mean it's it's a good thing to do. This irony of waiting in line with lots of people to see if you all have it during a pandemic. But
I don't follow a lot of the news, but I understand like in the West Coast in Vancouver, they have like a swirl, gargle, spit test for kids these days. And I also understand there's rapid tests that are not approved by Health Canada yet. Which is, I mean, gosh, isn't that's the holy grail at this stage? If we can get rapid testing done, know within 6 hours whether or not we have this, we can start making decisions. Because contact tracing, forget about it. Canada's not even going to do it. We can't. No, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they're not doing this. But
you're not going to get everyone on board, so it's not going to work. Basically.
Well, you need a rapid test. I think that's the key, right?
And I'm sure they're working on it. I've seen on the news a couple of things similar to that idea. But they're not out yet. But that would solve everything. And as I was in the line, I was thinking, and I don't know if this is possible, but with schools back, and who knows how long they'll remain back. But I've heard in Ontario that each school or most schools have a nurse in the school now during class time. And I was thinking, what are they doing in there? And I wonder why can't kids get tested at school? Tests can be delivered there, and maybe the lines would be shorter or more effective in the other centers, and maybe the results need to be delivered to the hospital or test center. But I thought, well, maybe not every day, but once a week or whatever routine they're going to go through with this. If they're having a nurse in schools anyway, maybe it'd be easier to test kids at school.
Perhaps I'm showing my age. But when I went to school, cars were made of iron, and there was a school nurse all the time at the school. There was a nurse that worked there. So, whatever happened, all your boo-boos, there's a nurse, right? I got an upset tummy, or I'm, feeling sad, or whatever the case may be. Those were usually the two that I had. You'd go see the nurse. But I guess now it's novel that there is one arriving in schools. And here in Quebec, it's the same as it is in Toronto. Like Montreal and Toronto are still kind of the two hot spots. Makes sense. They're population centers. But I was just thinking, it's really hard in these school scenarios to balance I think the need for kids to have this social and educational experience, because I think it's critical, right? Where I think we're getting to a place pre-second wave that, the kids aren't going to be all right. I'm not talking about, you don't understand this part of math anymore. I'm talking about the kids aren't going to be all right. We're carving out a big segment of their lives. But by the same token, I think about the kids in England during World War II that were rounded up and sent to the countryside for long periods of time. Mommy and Dad, you're going to stay here and go to work and hopefully not die. And you're going to go stay with these people in the country so that you can keep living a quote unquote normal kid's life.
Right.
So I think it's now you have to stay home and take Zoom classes and play with your iPad for a little bit. And let's try and take as many walks as possible. And we're having conversations about the deep psychological damage, potentially. I'm curious how much of the psychological damage might have been measured of those kids during, global war, where they're taken from their parents and sent to the country for years. I don't know. Maybe it's because maybe we're babies. Maybe we're babies about this stuff, right? We're not really asked to. It's not a big ask. Stay home.
No, it's in 2020 or whatever year it is. No, it's not a big ask to stay. I mean, it's easy to stay home, but it's balance is always hard. What is the social element that we can allow ourselves to do? And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. In schools, I hope everything works out, and I hope they're able to stay in there and whatever the case may be. And if alternate, they go twice a week. Twice a week is better than once a week, and once a week is better than none. So whatever they need to do to figure that out. The kids need to be around other people, and staying home with mom and dad for a month is fine. But this is not close to over. So
no, 2 years is not a sustainable period of time for especially parents who are likely trying to work and are not trained or equipped for homeschooling. And maybe in some cases to not have ever spent that much time with their kids, save the summer, right? This is the longest I've ever actually been around my children, and they're a lot. So I can imagine that there's so many factors here at play, right? And we're seeing in Montreal as we go into, I think we went orange today in Montreal. We didn't here where I am. We're green. We have colors for different regions based on the level. Okay. It's some sort of severity thing. I don't know.
Okay.
What does it mean? There are measures taken in each of the different regions depending on the severity. And then as well, there are increased fines because we all know that punishment is the best way to get people to not do stuff, right?
Of course.
Anywho, so it means that they're closing bars earlier.
Oh, okay.
Earlier. So you got to stop drinking by 12, I think, and go home. I don't know. I just drink at home. So what do I know? But again, here's an interesting idea that I think a lot of, bar owners are saying, all right, send them home at 11:30. What are they going to do? I was young once. What would you do? I would go home with my friends. It's like, I was going to my house and let's take these fucking masks off.
Right.
And just party. And it's like, they're arguably safer there in the bar. Put them in an Uber, send them home where it's at least being monitored than these private parties and stuff, which seems to be the source of a lot of the outbreaks.
Seems to be, although it could be anywhere. But I mean, it's prohibition all over again. Like just because you make something illegal or not allowed to do it doesn't mean people will stop doing it. They'll just find another way to do it.
Yeah, so it's going to go underground.
How can we get cooperation, right?
I wonder too if these private parties are the source, because I'm no tinfoil hat conspiracy theory guy, but it's like, gosh, we got a lot of planes coming in. And guess where a lot of those planes come in? They come in Montreal and Toronto. There's a lot of people coming to this country from other places. And I'm not talking like go home immigrants. What I'm talking about is people traveling unnecessarily in and out of the country, bringing what they bring with them. And it's like the last thing that the government's going to say to you. Again, here's the tinfoil hat for you. They're not going to be like, well, we're having a problem with bringing in all these people. And it's like international travel is an issue. No, they're going to say, private parties, stop it. You kids, come on. We got to do this right.
I think there's something to it, but I agree. I think if you have a private party, you have some people over in your backyard, you're likely to know those people. They're not going to be strangers.
Right.
And when you get on a plane, how many times do you know someone on the plane? Basically zero, right? You never know, so
it's a whole new bubble.
It's a whole new bubble. I'm not saying that everyone should have a party, but I think having people over for drinks is probably more or less okay. Maybe don't make a habit of it every day, but this is nuanced and there's layers to it. And I think you just, as individuals, have to be responsible and just everyone knows what's going on and try and make smart decisions. And sometimes that's hard, but
I follow on Twitter one of your Toronto natives, Isaac Bogosh.
Oh,
and he's a bit of a TV whore. He's on all the TVs, but his Twitter's fantastic because he's one of the most well-informed infectious disease specialists in the country. And what he speaks well of is how to parse the data to make sense of it as people. And then what are the individual responsibilities of people in this scenario and what we can do. What risks can we mitigate? What is not risky? He was the first guy to say, you probably don't need to wipe your groceries down. Right. Remember we were afraid of our groceries? We were all like, groceries are going to come in. We're all going to die.
Yep.
We had 3 zones. I don't know if I told, we had 3 zones. I got a big table from Costco and I put it downstairs and I bought red, yellow, and green tape. And then something came in the house and it would go into the red zone. Right. And then the next day I would go down and move stuff from the red zone to the yellow zone and then the yellow zone to the green zone. So 72 hours, this has, the fomites, right, have dissipated or died or the coronavirus is fine. But yet we would still take those groceries upstairs and wipe them down. We'd have a bin of soapy water and a bin of water and there'd be Lysol wipes and everything. We're wiping groceries down like nutters. Nutters. And Isaac Bogosh on Twitter is like, you probably don't need to do that. That's like, there's not.
It just gets grouped into like just general hygiene of, fruits and vegetables just get washed before you eat them, just like normal. And maybe you wash them a few seconds more than you would normally. And I get like washing your hands and bathing and all these things are good habits in general. So, you probably shouldn't be licking the pole on the public transit system, so don't do that.
No.
Making light of it, but
how are you feeling going into the fall now? Because like I don't know where you're at. I kind of, I don't know what it's like. You're in the core, like you're right in the middle of it all down there.
I honestly don't know how to feel, to be quite honest with you. Like it's been a good summer. The numbers have been pretty good. I felt pretty calm, kind of moving around outside. Still haven't gone to a restaurant or anything on the inside. No bars, nothing like that. I'm like, you like to drink at home. Um, and now, in Toronto, we're up to, what are we up to now? About over 400 cases a day now.
Yeah.
But it's hard to understand what that means at the same time. So I don't think anything is going to change for me. Like I'm not certainly going to more places now. I'm probably going to a few less. We're probably going to the grocery store a little bit less, doing more bulk shopping. But it's hard. It's hard to figure out what's going to happen. And I don't have kids. I'm not a teacher in the public school system. I'm not in that. I would definitely feel a lot different if I were.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't really know what's, there's all this talk of maybe they'll lock it down again, maybe they'll keep it going, maybe this will change, that change, back to phase 1, 2, whatever it is. We'll see, but I guess we don't really know. The one thing that seems different is, I think this is true, most of the deaths that we've accrued in Ontario, or I guess in Canada, mostly from the spring, were in long-term care. And that seems to be more or less sorted now, where those most vulnerable people are not becoming infected, and most of the infections now are, I think they're saying it's people under 40, which doesn't necessarily make it good, but if they're not quote unquote vulnerable, we don't know who has underlying illnesses and all that kind of stuff. But
I was watching some trend lines though here in Canada, and the young folks that are getting it, the youths are getting it, and then right behind it are the elderly, right? So there's always this kind of follow on of an upward curve of elderly folks getting it. I was listening to the CBC in the car today on the way into the city, as I do, and there was a great podcast, and they were interviewing combinations of COVID survivors, research specialists, that kind of thing, and it was well done, very super well constructed. And again, listening to some of the folks who contracted the disease and ended up being hospitalized, you're reminded very quickly of, one, you really don't want to get this. You really don't. This is not pleasant. Like, yes, you may survive, but
I don't think death is the right measure for this. Like, that's obviously the most obvious one, but there are, obviously mild cases, but there are really terrible symptoms to this.
Like, I could shoot you in the stomach and you would live for several days in some cases. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's like, well, I guess shoot me in the stomach. Who cares, right? This is going to really suck for a long time. And, the several months often of recovery are slow. And who knows what the neurological damage that this could do is.
Right.
But it's, again, the reminder that it's like, once you get so sick that you need to be hospitalized, don't forget the whole point was there may not be a bed for you if you get that sick, if too many of us get sick at once. I think again, that messaging's lost. It's like, why are we doing this? It's because if we all get sick at the same time, you're all going to die at home. No one can treat you. Yes, it's treatable if you can get treatment. But if we all die at home, nobody can come to your house. There's no like Uber doctor who's going to show up and take care of you, right?
And I guess that is what I'm feeling. I mean, it seems more and more obvious every day that the end game here is a vaccine, and that's it. That's the full stop, because it seems like until there is one, the numbers will go up for a little bit, they'll go down for a little bit, it'll be okay, it won't be okay. Businesses will open, they'll close, but we'll still be playing this kind of
cat and mouse
game for until there's a vaccine for it.
Or I think that in concert with effective treatment. That's the other, is they're getting better now in ICUs of taking care of this, right? Initially, it's like, well, I don't know, right? I'm not suggesting doctors like, I don't know, right? But they're certainly sharing information to a degree that they're better able to treat patients than they ever have before.
Well, and medicine works when there's precedent. Like,
right.
I tried this and it worked. In April, we didn't have that.
So. Exactly. So again, there's treatment paths that are showing great promise that have been used for other things like lupus. So they're starting to integrate some of these, and they're getting some results, and they're finding, hey, we can actually maybe get in early if you're diagnosed, and we'll be able to treat you so that the infection itself isn't going to be as severe. So I think a combination of that and the distancing measures and eventually the vaccine that Donald Trump is promising is going to lead to some sort of normalization. But let's be real, we're not talking about that until like this time next year, we might go to a concert.
Right. I mean, God bless everyone that I'm watching on TV that's in the US and they're at the NFL games today and they're at college football games and whatever. 0% chance I'm not on that level. Like there's 0% chance I'm not even going to a restaurant. Like I'm still getting takeout. Patio season basically is over now. It's pretty cold.
Yeah.
And I don't have any desire. I do miss, like we've talked about this, I do miss having people over for dinner and going to your house and other people's houses for dinner. But that's not something that I'm willing to contract this for either.
No. We were saying in the car today, I was listening to Depeche Mode, and I'm like, man, I regret. This is my COVID regret. I regret. My office was right across the street from the Bell Center, and I would walk out of there every week, Thursday, Friday, whatever. Somebody's playing right across the street. Scalper's got tickets. You can go in. And Depeche Mode's in town, Queen's in town, Pink's in town. It's like, you know what? Skip it. Now I'm like, damn, like, I could have, now I want to. Can't.
Same last year. I remember there was two. Elton John was here in Toronto, and the Stones, the Rolling Stones were here. And they were really expensive tickets. And I said, nah. But now I'm just like, it's an experience that, those dudes are going to die. Like they're up there. And then how often, and it's very plausible they'll never come back tour anywhere, but let alone here. So yeah, that's my COVID regret.
I posit though my COVID regret is multifactorial. We currently have larger savings accounts traditionally than ever before, right? So it's a lot easier to sit here and say, wow, I'm going to go see that concert. I would do this and I would do that. It's totally different when your checking is down to like $6. And and it's like, I don't get paid for another week. And then the Stones are in town. It's like, okay, I'll throw it on the credit card. I don't know when I'm going to pay that back. Like, I think that's one consideration. It's like these concerts aren't cheap, right? But now I think we're craving this social interaction and shared experience so much that we would gladly drain that savings account to go see the Stones play.
And that's why I think it's important that kids get some sort of social something, because as adults, we can, we have that autonomy to make that illogical decision to go to a restaurant if we wanted to. My mom's not going to call me and say, don't do that. And I could still do it. Right. But if you're a kid, you can't. And, we've seen the NHL is finishing, the NBA is finishing, all the guys who have been eliminated from those bubbles in Edmonton, Toronto, and Disney World. And they're talking about how tough it was just being in there. Guys who are married, guys who have kids, can't see anybody. Yeah, they love basketball, but they're mature human beings, and they're not kids developing. So it's a tough scenario.
Yeah, the story of doctors who live in their garage because they can't hang out with their family right now because they're on the COVID unit. So there's different sacrifices. I mean, there's people who don't work in medical fields and have a little bit more like us, and we have a little more liberty and freedom to kind of do those things. But there are bigger sacrifices being made for sure, and we'll continue. It's curious because I think today I bought a washer and dryer from a seemingly 80-something-year-old man from France who lived in Tunisia and now works at Home Depot, and he's a lovely man. And I think, man, what has this guy been through, right? And what does he think about us? For those of us who might find some occasion to complain during this, I wonder what folks like him think, who left France and lived in South Africa, and then probably saw some stuff in Tunisia, and moved
stuff
here.
There.
We had the FLQ in Quebec. I mean, there's just stuff. There's like real. It's
always good to reflect on a little bit of perspective and get it out of our own, pardon the pun, our own bubble from time to time. Because the news is good at stuff, and they've been pulling these pretty old people who lived through the Spanish flu. Were alive, like we were super young, and are still alive now, and they've kind of been interviewed. I find it very fascinating, and people have been sharing pictures on Twitter there was a picture I saw, I think it was yesterday, of Georgia Tech was playing football, college football, and there was a picture of a couple of people in the stands there, and then there were people at the Georgia Tech game in 1917.
Whoa.
At the Georgia Tech football game.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's interesting. In 1917, guys, full suits, hats, masks on
Really?
in Georgia in 1917.
Huh?
It is interesting historical information that we're going down this path. It's I find it interesting.
All right. Well, I'm Corey.
And this is Woody.
And this has been the ISOcast.
And I got swabbed.